2021 may have seen the end of a year full of many varied appropriations. We'll have seen fantastic leagues racing on PC, on PlayStation, on Xbox, but it culminated with Next Gen finishing off the Renault Megane trophy with Power Maxed, and naturally something had to come and fill the void. It's now 2022 and we're delighted at Next Gen to bring you brand new championship Thursday nights. It's the Greddy Cooper Z League here for round one as Silver Fox 40 announces it as brilliantly as he possibly could here at the Red Bull Ring. I'm Jack TM53, your commentator as usual on Thursday nights for console leagues. And what a championship we've got in store here. Two different cars to be raced in tonight's event around this 10-corner circuit, a classic and a staple in motorsport history. We're following Ruddo 24, of course, in one of those cars. That's the Greddy Fugu Z, based on the Nissan 240Z effectively, but styled for the SEMA awards that Gran Turismo host every year. The drivers have customised their livery, so they've got the natural Gran Turismo car right in front of them, but they've used a little bit of style and merit, shall we say, to update their cars. So there's Ruddo, who's going to be joined tonight. Silver Fox 40, who announced the league in spectacular fashion. Snav driving around in the other car that we'll see in a second race. That's the Mini Cooper S, the classic from 1965. There's NGR Tim back in Next Gen Racing Championship again with those bright colours. Number 78 driver Matty Rudd also there in the currently provisionally 6th. Bruce Lee Harden has got his Mini out for the time being, which is nicely stickered. Someone has just popped up into second place. I believe that is Swargy 98. Good to have him in the Thursday Championships, of course. He's running around in the Mini there. Got another driver there who's new to the championship. As far as I'm aware, that is, I'm looking at it from, I believe, Rin or Rhine. I know that he has a Maltese flag next to his name, so obviously coming from Malta. For those that don't know where Malta is, check it out on Google Chrome somewhere. But in any case, the drivers at the moment operating themselves around this track, you know, not particularly long. It's only 3 and a bit miles in Austria is the Red Bull Ring, obviously owned by the Red Bull Corporation. But let me just run you through the league settings, because it's quite a fascinating championship we've got in store. So just so you're aware, for the Greddy Fugu, which we're following with Ruddo currently, no balance of performance on for this car. Power is set to the absolute maximum and the weight is set to its minimum. You know, there's stock settings, so, you know, effectively all the power up, no weight. The car's going to be absolutely wonderful to drive. The best part about it, no fuel, no tyre wear, and they're on racing super soft tyres, so all the grip in the world plus a little bit of slip for the drivers in this rear wheel drive car. Fantastic thing to look at, I have to say. Then in the Mini, running around at the moment, Swargy, there he is in the Cooper S, of course. That's a similar profile. You know, it's a maximum power, minimum weight, and there is an advised setup that has been given out. That's been set up there, so drivers can use this setup just to make the car feel a little bit easier to drive. You know, it doesn't really seem to be a competitive advantage using different settings in the Mini. It's quite a stock standard car, so drivers will be getting to grips with it today around what is quite a nice circuit. So again, with that, no fuel, no tyre wear, all on racing super soft tyres, which will be great for the drivers in the Minis. There's Swargy just following Snav there, who's also in his car in the appropriately named Betty Swallock's car, similar to what he ran a number of seasons back in other leagues. I've seen that before in the Scirocco. So Snav following it on, that black and red scheme there. In terms of the settings though, you know, drivers need to be aware for the lobby settings that, you know, if they pick up a penalty whilst you know, they're out on circuit, they're not allowed to overtake another car. They've got to remove that penalty first. If they do accidentally do that, they get a couple of corners, 3 corners to be exact, just to help them understand that they've got to give their position back. So 3 corners they need, which is great. Mehanester commenting there. Let's see if there's some rolls in the Minis. Good to see you back, Mehanester. It's been some time. He operated in the BMWs a couple of seasons ago. So The other sort of unique nature of the Greddy Cooper League is the fact that there are 3 technical championships involved in all this. There's an individual league for the Greddy, which we're following on with Tim here. There is also another league championship for the minis, and then there's a combined total as well. So there could be an amazing opportunity to have 3 different champions in this, but all these championships will take a very big focus. I'm sure the drivers are going to be absolutely brilliantly competitive in this league. 10 races as well for the season ahead, so that's going to be fascinating to watch. We start with Red Bull Ring tonight, Laguna Seca next week. After that, it's Tsukuba, that's in Japan of course, Brands Hatch GP, then Willow Springs at the Big Willow, another really good circuit. A little bit of a break. Round 6 we go to Lago Maggiore, we go to Brazil for round 7 Interlagos with Kyoto, Yamagiwa, Suzuka East and Goodwood hosting the finale of the championship, which will be absolutely brilliant in these 2 cars. Qualifying format similar to the Megans from seasons by, obviously starting qualifying at 8 o'clock, and it is currently 4 minutes before then, so due to start in a few moments time. Quali 10 minutes long. That will set the grid for the Fugu car, which Bruce is currently driving around at the minute. He's got Fredo's sponsorship, has Bruce, so good news for him. Don't know if they've given him 25p or not, but there we are. And then the races are as follows: 20 minutes in the Fugu, and then a little bit of a break, and then a 15-minute reverse grid race in the Mini Cooper S. So that's going to be interesting to see how the drivers get on. Points are the usual that they are for console leagues within Next Gen, so it's a point for pole, point for fastest lap, and then 21, 18, 15, 13, 12, 11, and so on and so forth. Really straightforward to understand. We've got a couple of drivers in tonight, which is really good to see. We are missing a couple of others who are unavailable, one of them being Subertus, the second best Dutch driver in the world. So see, as Rin just gets it a little bit wrong and plows into the wall coming out of turn 4. Don't know if he just got caught out by the braking there. There's Silver Fox 40 back in the championship on Thursdays, which is good to see him in. Obviously was a staple of Lobby 2 in the Megans. Let's see where the drivers are out second. But let's see these drivers, who's competing in the championship. Matty Rudd, 28, very good driver. Had a number of good results in the Megans. He's carried on into this league, which is good news. Dee Hartley as well. I've got to say, Dee Hartley, a smashing livery that is. Really simple and basic, but retro. Nice livery, that one, with the colour. But Dee Hartley back in the championship. Won a couple of races in the Megans in Lobby 2, certainly capable. Showed improvements in Lobby 1 as well, so hopefully Hartley will have a good time in both cars. Swargy there, 98, obviously another well-known driver within Next Gen is Swargy, and I believe I'm right in saying that this is the first time potentially I've ever commentated on Swargy, so it'd be fascinating to see how he gets on in that white, red and black, almost YouTube-esque style livery. There's Ruddo 24. Obviously, brilliant driver is Ruddo, champion, of course, within Next Gen, full focus driver as well. Absolutely superb. There is the number 24. Got to say, there's a couple of liveries that are quite similar, just with different colour schemes, but they're very nice, very classic. And there's Silver Fox 40. Got a couple of podiums in Lobby 2 in the Megans. I quite like that sort of rainbow-esque style colour of the Mini there, it's quite nice. Bruce Lee Harding, of course, well known for genuinely having a good time in any championship that he gets involved in. We'll be fascinated to see how he gets on. Snav too, already covered him. Rin, a debutant in the Thursday night series, hasn't got a livery showing on his Greddy Fugu, but not the end of the world. NGR Tim just coming out of the pits now, an absolute staple is Tim in championship racing for Next Gen, really well known. And there is Jordan just announcing that it's 1 minute till qualifying, because JPH, of course, the last driver to mention, the host of the championship, the creator of the championship as well, so that'll be good to see him out on circuit. And other cars just swapping out now and getting themselves into the right car. So 10 minutes of qualifying due to start any moment from now. as the number 69 of Bruce Lee flies himself through turns 7 and 8. Anyone who likes chocolate, you can probably back him, I think, to be honest. Be interested to see how Ring gets on. So let's see how the drivers get on shortly. Tim just flying around there through turn number 5. Track settings just getting updated. Let's put a couple of cars back onto the grid, but left a couple of them. There we go, there's the proper reset. So should be ready to get on now as everybody enters. So there we go, Jordan just setting that now. 10 minutes qualifying. We should be starting. Everybody flying out of the pits. Looks like Matty Rudd has got himself to the front of the crew. And there he is, coming through out of the pit lane. He's got a little personalised registration plate. Don't know if you can see that there on the back. Matey 8 Rudd. Nicely done. Ruddo just following him. Swargy as well. There's Bruce Lee coming out of the pits. D Hartley. And there's JPH in that Boyd Transport car there. See how he could get on, whether he can put a performance in tonight. I have to say that the Greddy is a lovely car to not only to look at but also to drive. If anyone's not driven it before on GT, I'd certainly recommend it. A couple of comments just coming in. Evening to Hirakram. Obviously an absolute legend in his own right within Next Gen is Hirakram. And I'm sure that he will have hopefully a good time watching the series tonight. Jordan lunges his way down into turn 4. Should be expecting a little bit of oversteer action in the cars as well. Certainly lend themselves that way. Rear wheel drive, of course. Quite a good amount of horsepower on tap that's accessible for the drivers to use. And sees JPH gets the tail out coming through turn 6. Nice Silver Fox as well. Rin just coming through too. And a couple other drivers, but Matty Rudd's going to be the first driver to come across the line. He's being slipstreamed by Ruddo as they come towards turn 1. Let's ride on board with Ruddo. Chucks the car through turn 1. That is track extension going on from Matty Rudd there. I'm surprised he hasn't actually picked up a penalty from all of that. And there it is, I was about to say. So he's going to have to try and clear that around the lap somewhere. On the brakes down into turn 3 for the drivers. You can see how much the penalty clears going into turn 2. Nicely done from Ruddo, really clean exit. Tiny bit of a wiggle, but that won't cost him anywhere near as much time as you thought it might have done. He'll get a nice benefit of the toe now as they come towards turn 4, just before the advertising hoardings, down into third gear, second gear for Ruddo as he clips the car through, and Matty Rudd just pulls over out of his way there. So that'll be pretty beneficial for him to use. Down through then into turn 6. Ruddo just keeping the car nice and tidy, using all of the exit curb and a little bit more on the AstroTurf, and then down into turn 7. Difficult corner to get right, and then clips it over the curb through turn 8. Got to be careful in the rear wheel drive cars. Gran Turismo does have a tendency to flick the car out over those curbs at times. Up to 135 mile an hour, down on the brakes into turn 9. Flicks the car through, and then turn 10 pretty straightforward. Should be able to clip the inside curb, which he does. Ruddo just runs a little wide. Had to back out of the throttle there, and he's slowing down. You can see he's had to mitigate the penalty. Still got P1, but Swargy will now take provisional pole of 34.6. What about Bruce Lee Harden? He'll be next to set his first run. It's going to be a 136. It is from Bruce Lee, so a couple of issues on that lap. What about D Hartley? He's got JPH right behind him, so we'll watch the two of them. JPH getting all the toe and more, and they move to 4th and 6th respectively. There's Silver Fox 40 coming round the final corner. What's he going to set? It's a 139.7 for his opening gambit. What is Rin doing? Just comes around this final corner. Hirakam saying it's quite a tricky car to drive. It is tricky to drive fast, but it is fun to drive, which is the main point. Rin set to 44.9, so a little bit off the pace, but loads of time in the session for him to improve. Tim now coming round the final corner. He's picked up a penalty. He's actually run a little bit wide out the final corner. Tim's lap time as he slows down, I'm assuming it's probably going to be a little bit slower than Rin, which it is. It's a 45.9. Snav still on his outlap, so Snav already missed about half of the session at this stage, so we'll wait and see how he gets on, because Swargy is still P1 provisionally. We've still got to wait for Ruddo and Matty Rudd to set competitive lap times. They both had penalties on their lap, of course. So here we come round the final corner. Let's see what this is from Matty Rudd. It looks a little bit quicker, and it is. Not by much though, only a 35.8, and Swargy with a fabulous lap time by the seams of things there. Ruddo not much quicker, but we did see him lose time, so maybe he's just picked up a penalty somewhere on circuit. There's JPH in fourth, diving into the pits, maximum attack into the pit lane from Jordan. Not sure what he's popping in there for. D Hartley, he goes a little bit quicker now. That's a 136.3. Silver Fox, he's on a personal best at the moment, so this is going to be a little bit better from him, and it is a 37.2, so finds 2.5 seconds in that silver and blue colour scheme. Don't forget, of course, JPH on the controller tonight, not on the wheel like he would be normally. So he's got a bit of work to do. Rin just getting himself a bit sideways out the final corner. A nice learning curve for the Maltese driver as he comes towards lines of 42.5. So within 8 seconds, but still, this is the whole point of Next Gen. Developing and understanding the car, getting used to everything. It might be the first time driving it, and that's not a problem. They'll learn as the season goes on. Tim's obviously ended up facing the wrong way coming out of turn 8, so that's why he's going a lot slower than what you'd expect him to be. There's no insult on Tim, of course. He's a good driver. Snav now, the only driver yet to set our lap time. Just following Swargy here. We'll just go on the roof camera. As it comes down into the final corner, you can see Matty Rudd just a little bit sideways going into the entry of that corner. Let's see what the lap times are. Any improvements from the drivers? There are. So Matty Rudd now into the 34s. Ruddo a little bit slower despite having the slipstream, which is fascinating as Matty Rudd goes even further sideways. That's going to cost him on this lap half a second, which he went very far out wide. And Ruddo just a little bit further back from that. And JPH in that red and black striking livery for Boyd Transport. Snav up to 5th now, so a competitive lap time set from Snav there. And there's D Hartley, Bruce Lee. They're all separated by 2 seconds pretty much. So Fox 40 a little bit further back, 2.5, and then Rin and Tim a bit further back. That's going to be a rhyme through the season. Rin and Tim in 9th and 10th. So interesting quali so far. Drivers just getting themselves acquainted really with the Greddy Fugu. I know some drivers might not have had too much practice compared to others. Now this is the best time for them to understand the characteristics of the car, getting used to the way that the car does tend to snap from time to time. It can catch drivers out, especially those that are a little bit inexperienced. There's a huge train of cars coming through the final corner. They've actually caught up to the back of Tim here. A little bit not really particularly ideal for the cars that are on quick laps. Here comes Ruddo now, gets a bit of a tow and he goes up to 2nd. Overtakes his sibling. Tim just moving out of the way there. He's going to catch. Swargy's going to catch him at some point here. Will he get a nice run out of the corner? He will do. Gets a bit of slipstream. And then up out of that corner, out of turn 1 towards turn 2 and turn 3. Down on the brakes into 2nd gear. That's a nice exit from Swargy. You can see the tail of Matty Rudd's Fugu just fishtailing a little bit out of turn number 3. Interesting for him to try and deal with. It's following his sibling now. And there's Bruce Lee in 4th place. Sliding the car through turn 1. That's what the crowd haven't paid to watch to see. They're just going to watch it anyway. Oh, JPH has called it quits. So he's done his laps now. Bear with me one moment. So we've got Snav there in 6th position, and Silver Fox 40 just lining up in 7th as it stands. I'm sure the message will come through from JPH shortly to say complete the final lap. So who is getting onto the final lap? Tim will. He'll get another chance. Matty Rudd's done for the evening in terms of qualifying, so he won't improve on that. Swargy still has the advantage by less than a tenth of a second, and Ruddo had a penalty to try and clear there, so will that affect his lap time? Bruce Lee's jumped up to 3rd place in the Freddo car. D Hartley, good lap from D Hartley, that up into 4th place ahead of JPH. Snav right there as well. Silver Fox is there too. Tim and Rin together. Matty Rudd's just come back out on circuit as well. He's only 2/10 off the pace, which is good enough for 3rd, but we're watching this qualifying battle for pole position between Ruddo and Swargy, and just see the drivers coming round. And Hirakram with a comment there saying great return from Swargy. It absolutely is, if he can hold on. I mean, nonetheless, still being on the front row would be impressive, but pole position in that car. Oh, he's picked up a penalty though. Might just see the end of Swargy's run here. See Ruddo as he flies through the final corner. Can he make any improvement as he comes towards the line? He's aiming for a 34.6, and he's just got in, but it's not going to be enough. By less than 200ths of a second, Swargy has provisional pole. Anybody else on a lap, as everybody's doing donuts. Snav, will he improve? He does, but, well, he doesn't. And Tim doesn't either, so it's going to be Swargy 98 on his return. Fabulous effort. Great result for Swargy. He takes pole position. Some celebratory donuts from him. Really well done for Swargy. Ruddo there in 2nd place, carrying on from where he left off last season. Right at the sharp end. Matty Rudd there in 3rd place, going the wrong way down the pit lane. Fairly certain that's probably not NXTGEN approved. Bruce Lee just waiting there in 4th. D Hartley 5th. There's JPH again also going the wrong way around the circuit. Snav, Silver Fox 40. We're waiting for Tim and Rin to get out of the pits. Rin's heard the call. Out he goes. Tim has probably disappeared, which isn't ideal. But a 34.6 from Swargy. I think that's an impressive effort from the man. And there is Tim now, coming out of the pit lane. There we come. Tim just out of the pits now. It's going to be a test, really, this race, of this car keeping it not just competitive, but also making sure that, you know, no mistakes. That's going to be a key feature in this early round of the season. Not making any mistakes, just picking up results and points where they can. That's what the drivers have to aim to do. So we are moments away, just a couple of seconds from the race. So here we go then, first round of a brand new season in 2022. It's Swargy 98 on the right hand side, like white, black and red YouTube backed car. Ruddo on the left in that black and gold car as well. Watch out for Matty Rudd and Bruce Lee Harding. It's 20 minutes on the right hand side, and the lights are about to start shortly. And it's live here from the Red Bull Ring. It's a great start from the front row. They've both got themselves away well. One of the cars at the back has gone terribly off the line, down into 10th place, whoever that is. But Swargy 98 leads the way. A little bit of jostling going on through turn 1, but they all just about come through it cleanly. I think it was JPH who was a bit sideways next with another family member of his. We'll talk about that shortly. Silver Fox 40, Tim, D. Hartley and Rin. It was D. Hartley with the poor start. He went backwards as they come towards the approach for turn 1 for the first time. Let's get the camera angles that we need. Oh, JPH sideways. He had a little bit of contact with Snav. He's going to lose out momentum-wise to Silver Fox, who moves himself into 6th position. Great launch for him. Not sure what happened to D. Hartley. He's back up to 8th, though. And there's Rin and Tim in the background fighting over 9th place. It's going to be a development race for them this season. But Swargy currently in the lead at the moment, and there is Ruddo following him in 2nd place. There we go, we get the onboard camera. You see the view from the interior camera with Ruddo looking at that sort of small lift spoiler on the back of the Fugu. Trying to go as flat out as they possibly can. There's Matty Rudd in 3rd place. There's Bruce Lee. You could just see the frog on the front of his bonnet. There's Snav, there's JPH as well. So, a bit of background, we've got 2 sets of families in this championship. We've got the Rudd siblings of Ruddo and Matty Rudd, and then you've got the family of Bruce, Snav and JPH all running together. Silver Fox 40 trying to get involved in the family business though. He's in 7th and trying to get past JPH as they approach turn 1. A little bit later on the brakes for Silver Fox 40. He's up the inside. JPH gives room. Actually loses out a little bit of momentum, and that's going to give D. Hartley all the opportunity he would have had, but he's got a penalty that he has to clear. Drivers can't overtake with the penalty. They're aware of that, and good driving from Hartley. There's Rin in front of Tim for the time being, but Swargy happily sat in the lead for the time being. They've already got a little bit of a gap to Matty Rudd, who's got a 1.5 second penalty to try and deal with. The purple and gold next-gen liveried car there. Gotta say, cracking paint scheme that's used from Matty Rudd. And there's Bruce Lee in 4th position. There's Snav there in 5th, just following Bruce Lee. 2 family members very close together. JPH, Silver Fox 40 still battling with D. Hartley. We'll just keep an eye on this battle. 3 cars fighting over 6th place. Down into turn 6. You see, D. Hartley also got a little registration on the plate, as you can see there. And Hartley just a little bit of fishtailing going on coming out of the bottom of turn 7. That's to be expected in this car. Rin and Tim separated, I was about to say by a second, but Rin and Tim now separated by a bit of tarmac and a gravel trap. Tim will have to get himself back into the swing of things. See how he gets on. Swargy just going over to the side of the pit wall there. Just trying to throw Ruddo off really in terms of slipstream, but Ruddo gets a very good exit coming out of turn 1. In the slipstream up towards turn 3. Obviously this little left-hander here is turn 2. You see the gap closing. Will Ruddo dare to make a lunge this early on in the race? He thinks about it. He's going to be up the inside. He's going to dive one through, and then the contact comes. That was always going to happen because of Swargy's sort of, I don't know if it was a penalty or if there was ghosting going on, but they are now side by side as they approach turn number 4 rather. Swargy on the outside. Brakes a little bit earlier than Ruddo's on the inside, and Swargy lets him through. So opting to work with each other in the early knock-ins of the race. We're not even at a quarter point yet. And Matty Rudd just sat there in 3rd position. You see Swargy all over the back of Ruddo. Trying to keep an eye on the battle for 6th place at the moment. I know it's quite close between JPH, Silver Fox and D. Hartley. Let's have a quick scan through back to those 3 as we join JPH going sideways. There's 40 on the outside. Has Hartley got to move up the inside? Looks like he has. 40, will he get a decent enough exit? I don't think it's quite enough. Although, I say that, Hartley a little bit sideways through turn 8. I did mention that in practice. It's going to be a tricky car to drive. Turn 8, ooh, a little bit of contact between the 2, but fortunately, nothing too major. You see JPH absolutely throwing the car out of turn 10. Even into Shadow Stalker. And look, Silver Fox going for the inside now. It's D Hartley on the left. Will he brake a little bit later? He doesn't. They both brake at the same time. And actually, Silver Fox caused himself a lot of loss in terms of momentum there. And look at that. He's actually lost almost a second and a half. Or it will be a second and a half by the time he gets to turn 3. So, not ideal. And that fighting's just allowed JPH a bit of breathing room coming into turn 3. So he'll hopefully be able to utilise that, get himself into a rhythm and try and bring home some good points. Snav doing well in 5th. There's Bruce Lee, Matty Rudd and Swargy and Ruddo very close together in this initial stage. Fastest lap of the race currently Ruddo on a 34.4. Rin and Tim back to being close together again. About a second and a bit separates those two. We'll cut back to those later on. And Ruddo going a little bit quicker. Ride on board with Swargy. Lovely star delivery with a wooden wheel, has to be noted. You see the car revs all the way up to almost 10,000 RPM. Fabulously engineered car from Greddy, the tuning company. Down into 4th gear for Swargy. Actually had a better run out of the final corner there. Let's see his lap times he comes towards the line. New personal best, right on the pace of Ruddo. He's going to have to defend as he comes into turn 1. He's being squeezed out a little bit, Swargy on the curbs. Tries to get a better exit, but I have to say Ruddo matched him on that one. Slipstream though will now come into effect as the approach turns 2 and 3. You see that Swargy revving the car as far up as he could. Trying not to lose momentum as he tries to go round the outside at turn 3. Tries to do the cut back and they're both sideways coming out of turn 3. Couldn't capitalise on each other's small mistake, but it's great to watch. Matty Rudd just tracking these two at the moment. That's the best thing for him to do at the moment, realistically. Just keep driving at his own pace. He's actually a lot closer. He's less than a second there as he came through turn 3. Swargy's got a little bit deep into the gravel. He gets back on the circuit. A couple of corrections of the wheel, but he's back on the track, which is the main thing. A lot of time lost to Ruddo in terms of about a second and a third there, but kept it on the road. Didn't spin round, that's important, but now he's going to have to deal with the other Rudd brother. That's something he will need to contend with. As we were saying earlier on, one part of this race is going to be so important in the early stages of this championship is keeping this car on track. And Red Bull Ring certainly sets itself up for being a track where you can push the car quite a lot, but that's open for mistakes. That's what we saw from Swargy. First chink in the armour that we've seen from the top 3. But Swargy should be able to recompose himself and get back onto it. Bruce Lee finds himself alone in 4th place as he flicks the car through. That was fabulous camera angle. You just saw how much angle that Bruce Lee got coming through turn 1. There's JPH and it's D Hartley, Silver Fox. Rin's got a little bit more of a gap to Tim. I think Tim was catching Rin there about a second or so quicker, but I think he made a mistake. So back to 4 seconds for the bright turquoise and bright red driver with the green wheels. Ruddo doing what he does best in front, putting himself in some consistent lap times, and that's going to allow Matty Rudd a chance to focus on Swargy, because Swargy's attentions right now will be focused on the back of that, or rather on the front of that Greddy Fugu Z car. As I say that though, Matty seems to be ebbing and flowing through the race so far. You see Swargy again pushing the car through turn 7 and 8. I said turn 8 where the curbs are going to be very careful, the drivers. Going to have to be, otherwise they're going to spin off. See, back in the car into turn 9. And Ruddo has just got himself an advantage. Didn't look like he had the cleanest of exits, Ruddo, but hasn't lost that much time so far. And look back through, the gaps have all spread out. Apart from this fight over 7th place, Silver Fox 40 and D Hartley pushing themselves all the way around the circuit at the moment. Oh, that's wide from the pair of them for that matter. Very wide from both Fordy and Hartley. I think Hartley got his braking zone wrong and Fordy followed him. Will Hartley get a penalty for that? It looked like he lost more time than anything else, Hartley. And sure enough, both of them have escaped any sanctions from the stewards, which is fortunate. Of course, you know, no lapped cars in this series currently, so no need to get a safety car involved. Oh, there's Rin and Tim. Gap coming down again between Rin and Tim. I imagine these two will be sparring partners for the season, which would be quite good to watch. Always good to see battles up and down the grid, pushing each other to learn and develop. And that's a new personal and fastest lap from Ruddo 34.3. Actually managed to nearly pull a second on Swargy, so Ruddo stretching his legs will mean that he'll start from the back of the grid though in the next race in the minis. That's Matty there in third place, Bruce Lee in fourth. Picks up a penalty, does Bruce Lee. Snav in fifth position as JPH. So back in terms of the action, we're following JPH there. Looking at it at the moment is D Hartley in 7th place. He's managed to get that gap now back out to Silver Fox Fordy, who's there in 8th position. Rin and Tim closing the gap on one each other, and Ruddo just having fun in the sun. 7.5 minutes to go. Swargy just seems to have stabilised this gap between himself and Matty. Rudd there looking at the lap times. Let's have a look at the last laps from everybody. Let's watch Ruddo as he comes towards the start-finish line for the 9th time of asking. 34.8 from Ruddo. We look at it, it's a 34.3 from Swargy. Matty Rudd with a 35.1. What about Bruce? He's done a 35.4. Snav in the 35.4s as well. JPH a 35.3. D Hartley, what can he do? He's on a 35 flat. Silver Fox 40 has done apparently a 2 minute 56, so not quite sure how he's done that. I'm fairly certain that's a glitch. Rin and Tim in the 40s at the moment. Tim has considerably, lap upon lap, been a second quicker each time of asking, but the drivers are all looking very equally matched in terms of their racecraft in the Fugus. It just seems at the moment that the drivers have just been spread quite far apart. There's Snav in 5th place, cracking on with what he needs to do. Good points in the offing for the elder of the family trio between himself, Bruce, and JPH, the youngest of the trio. Currently last of the trio in terms of 6th place. A good effort shown by everybody. No real big mistakes out on circuit. There have been a couple of small minor corrections and errors, but so far so good from the drivers. It's really pleasing to see. And Rin just in 9th place. The Maltese driver just consistently lapping in the 1 minute 41s, and some people might look at that and say, well, that seems quite slow compared to the guys at the front, and that's fine. That's where drivers always find themselves when they first join into league racing, and in a brand new car and a new championship. It always takes time for it to click. And the whole point of Next Gen, developing and learning as you move forward. See, Tim has set a couple of ranges of lap times. He's done a 40 as his best lap time, but a 44.6 the next lap. Finding that consistency, moving forward with speed and consistency, really vital for this championship, and beating your main rivals. But Ruddo, in terms of rivals, he is everybody's target right now. Leading the way, 2.5 seconds clear. Swargy's got himself into the 34s the last 2 laps. Getting back into that rhythm he needs to be in the low 34s. That's where Ruddo has consistently been for a number of laps. Yes, admittedly, a 35 flat on lap 9. But he's got a nice gap now as Ruddo where he can just bring it home and the car. 4 minutes just over to go. Matty Rudd 2 seconds back. He's in the 34s on his last lap there, so that's an improvement from him. And there's Bruce Lee just in 4th, 34.8 in the Freddo car. Snav and JPH, looks like they've closed just a touch in the last few laps. Just have a look through the lap times. Yeah, a couple of tenths really. JPH seems to get the bit between his teeth. He's now less than 2 seconds behind Snav and closing, as you can see there. Maybe there's a grandstand finish between those two out on track. D Hartley, Silver Fox 40, Rin and Tim. Less than a second separates the battle for the penultimate spot, and again at the same corner Tim finds himself flying off into the gravel trap. And that gap now shoots back to over 3 seconds, and that might have just put the kibosh on that inter-rival fight. Ruddo just running around. Just noticed he's got a little dint in the front of the bonnet there. It's actually his number, so he's got the number 1. He's carried that over from the McGanns on the front of his bonnet there. A great championship fight between himself and Hirakram last season, which was settled at the final round, of course. Ruddo chucks the car through the final corner. He will have another lap after this one, so the penultimate lap for Ruddo as he comes across the line. And there's Swargy, Matty Rudd. Bruce Lee's got the gap down between these two as well. That's a point to make a note of. 35.1 and a 36.3, so a little mistake from Matty Rudd on that lap, just dropping him back towards Bruce Lee Harding. Maybe still some action to go yet. Snav and JPH separated by about 1.5 seconds. And again, JPH with a slightly better exit out of turn 1. You see that gap just marginally coming down. And positive to see for JPH. You see, he just gets on the power a little bit earlier. 1.5 seconds. One more lap after this. D Hartley and Silver Fox are having another good scrap between them. They've been quite together through the race at certain points. What can Silver Fox 40 do? Can he make any form of impression on that 7th place car? Oh, and that's Hartley going off at turn 4. He's just about kept it on the track, but 40 goes through. He takes full advantage of the error. He moves up to 7th. I did say, will he make an impression? And that is exactly what he did. Rin's back to a second between himself and Tim. They're on their final lap. And Ruddo goes on to his final lap now as well. These two are separated by a second currently, Rin and Tim. And here I'm just putting a comment in there, just talking about the ideal limit. But look at this. Let's talk about how close they are between them. JPH on the outside lines. They come into turn 1. Snav on the inside. Look at this sideways from JPH to try and get the better exit, but he just can't get underneath Snav. He's going to have to find it the long way round. As they come out of turn 1, they approach turn 2. On the left-hand side, JPH there. Will he look to try and go around the outside? Can he get a better exit out of turn 3? Oh, he's done very well. He's got a very good undercut. He's going to have the momentum surely coming off turn 3. Snav's going to be on the outside line. In cars like these, certainly is an opportunity for Snav to try and run it around the outside, but this is it. Final lap for these two. Down on the brakes into second gear. JPH keeps it parked on the exit, and Snav's a little bit sideways, and that's going to cost him momentum. Just looking towards further up the field. I'm just following Ruddo. I'm looking also at the final battle for 9th and 10th. Can Tim get anywhere near? He's got a penalty to contend with. He's sideways through the final corner. He's not going to make it. These two are going to finish 9th and 10th. Great result for Rin to beat Tim. But Ruddo 24 is going to take the first victory in this series. Great results for him. Absolutely fantastic. Swargy takes second on his return. Matty Rudd in third with Bruce Lee fourth. Great effort from those two. JPH is going to hold on. He's going to take 5th position. Snav just can't make it in the end in 6th. There's Silver Fox 40 in 7th place. Can he hold on? Look at D. Hartley's run. It's going to be a question of momentum, and he couldn't get his line that he needed, and Fordy's going to hold it. Hartley 8th. Rin and Tim 9th and 10th. Great racing. Fantastic racing. What in the end really came down to that final lap. Ruddo though takes the victory. He takes the point for fastest lap as well. Good effort from Swargy to take second, and obviously Matty Rudd held on to third place. So the drivers now will switch over to the Mini. We'll have a bit of a breather. The drivers will have a chance to reset, and it will be Tim on pole position in the Mini for this reverse race. So far, so good from the Greddy Cooper Z League. Next race will start at 20:43. I will be back shortly. I'm just going to take a breather myself. See you in a moment. So, return from the break. Drivers have a chance now just to get themselves some running in the Cooper. 15-minute race, of course, in the Coopers. Will certainly be interesting to see how long the lap time is around this track compared to the Fugu that we were just in. A 1:49 coming from Ruddo. So, 15-minute race should be enough time for maybe 9 or 10 laps around this 3-mile plus circuit. And they go exceptionally quick, these little Coopers. They're fabulous to watch. JPH just giving Tim a little reminder: maximum power, minimum weight possible, just so that he's got the opportunity. Rin got himself a nice stock standard Mini. Nothing wrong with that, of course. There's Snav back in the... I'm assuming he's going to still be in the Betty Swallock's car. Yes, of course he is, number 11. Got himself back in that car, of course. And the Minis do tend to make a sort of more baritone, deeper noise than the Fugus, as you can hear when they drive past. Little pop of the engine going on as they shift down the gears. It'll be interesting to see. What they do with these cars around this circuit. Obviously a new challenge for the drivers now, of course, you know, no longer in a rear wheel drive car. It's completely inverted front wheel drive in this Mini Cooper from 1965. The Cooper S now almost nearly 60 years old, entered its 57th year since it was made. So the drivers have to get used to the older practices, the older technology based under that Cooper. Effectively leaf springs almost in the Cooper S. Probably not quite, but still quite primitive compared to the Fugu. Our drivers, they've all still got different forms of liveries, and Bruce Lee's coming there. He's got an inverted Mr. Bean blue and black's colour scheme. I say Mr. Bean only because of the hood, not the green instead. D. Hartley driving around at the moment. So there's a bit of a mini queue going on, and oh, as I say, as I was talking about Mr. Bean before, it's not too far away. A bit more yellow than the green though. Let's have a look. Actually, I think that's quite on it. Yeah, it is in fact, indeed. So Tim with the Teddy. Not going to do a Mr. Bean impression. JP's trying to tell Tim to change the power and the weight, which is what we are waiting on. So he is. Bruce Lee chucks the car through there. Tim has now returned to the pit lane, so hopefully he'll be able to sort that. And Bruce has decided to turn his Mini into a drift car briefly. That's D. Hartley. JPH now sending another message through. D. Hartley following a similar colour scheme that he had to the Fugu, that blue and yellow-esque, or rather blue and gold colour scheme he's got there, the 79. Swargy also following quite a similar scheme. So not many drivers who've changed their colour schemes too much compared to the previous race. You know, Silver Fox 40's got that little bit different. Rins is, you know, still white, just like the Fugu was. Matty Rudd's pretty similar. Tim's obviously different, and JPH keeping the same. So not many choosing to have various liveries in this championship, trying to keep a same scheme going on for both cars, which is nice to see. and hopefully we will get started shortly. I'm sure that our drivers will be getting things sorted. I think Bruce there just has I think I've just recognised the mascot there with the puppy. If you've never heard of it or you want to know who it is, it's kind of like it rhymes with hush. Rhymes with hush. Puppy, effectively. Something along those lines. But Bruce has the fastest lap in this sort of mini provisional practice session. Unfortunately, no points available for him for the mini practice session we've got going on at the moment. Swoggy there. There's a bit of a queue now, a bit of a train. Matty Rudd ahead of it, with Snav right in behind. I imagine the minis will have much more powerful slipstreaming effects around this circuit. Obviously lower high speed. The Mini doesn't have exactly the best aerodynamic qualities about it either, so it'll just punch a hole in the air for all the others behind it. I imagine we'll have some close racing in the next 15 minutes. So this will be fascinating to see how everybody adapts to it. Little preview of what is to come. You see how close the drivers are all together there. Ooh, a little bit wide from Swoggy. All the cars, they've all got different terms of mileage on, so Bruce has driven nearly 200 miles in his Mini. I like his throwback to the 1275 GT as well. Swoggy's done over 1,000 miles, so he knows how to drive this Cooper. Ruddo's done 20 in this Mini, so don't be surprised though not to see him at the front. He will be quick, I'm certain. T. Harley's done about 70 in this car. Snav's done 318. Silver Fox has done 10. Rin's done 20, so a bit more. Matty Rudd 66, 206 from JPH, and Tim has left. Not ideal. Let's watch this top speed now as he comes down the road. So we've got Swoggy getting a double toe. Well, that's not really effective now. Snav doing about 106 mile an hour as they approach turn 3. Clamps the curb. Ooh, bit of argy-bargy going on through the corner. In fact, Matty Rudd has completely disappeared. And there we go. So race starting now. Tim is now ready and sorted. So Teddy ready. The Mini is out on track. It'll be down to Jordan to press start. And another fastest lap from Bruce Lee. So it will be Tim on pole. Unfortunately, with the new qualifying settings, I can't say here come the numbers anymore, because they don't exist on this setting. It's a little bit unfortunate, but we'll make do and adapt as we go. But the second race of the series, starting now. So, a full reverse grid race then for the first one, and this time it's Rin, 00 on pole position, Tim in second, the other way around. D. Hartley third, Silver Fox 44th with Snav and JPH on the third row. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers get on at this track. 15 minutes on the right hand side, and let's wait for the launches. And away we go here at the Red Bull Ring, and Rin's not got off to the best start. D. Hartley has had a fabulous start though, and he's into the first place position before they even get to turn 1. Great launch from him. Silver Fox 40 looking to try and do something into turn 1. Potentially will he lead? No, he won't. So it's Hartley with a fabulous launch. Second place 40, third is JPH, there's Tim in 4th, and everybody else is in 4th to 9th place. There is the pole position man originally, Rin all the way down in 10th, not sure what happened with his launch. Look at D. Hartley's gap already, he's a second and a half clear, and then there's this absolute chaos behind, lining towards turn 3, who breaks first? Oh, I thought Matty Rudd was going to hit Silver Fox 40, then he's gone so wide, actually gets hit by Snav, and ends up shuffled to the back of the queue. Absolutely phenomenal. Look at all these minis all in close proximity. Tim here, we're following. Snav now in 7th place. It's Swargy who's got himself up to 3rd place already, but Bruce Lee's on his inside as they break towards turn number 4. Ruddo making a move, Bruce Lee in 4th, Swargy 3rd. What a start for D. Hartley though, he is already 1.6 clear. Silver Fox 40 there in 2nd place, and all the drivers still trying to sort themselves out, shuffling them around in the pack. It's almost like a MotoGP race at the moment, a Moto2 race. Oh, that's Tim in the gravel trap. Mr. Bean is off the circuit. Bruce Lee in 4th, Ruddo 5th, there's JPH, Massey, Rudd and Snav all trying to sort themselves out. Oh, it's a little bit of a squeeze coming out of turn 8. But they all sort themselves out, and Snav benefits from the pair of them. He goes to 6th. Rin in 9th. Tim back down to 10th, and he's going to find that very difficult to catch the back of the train now, thanks to that gravel trap excursion at turn 6. But D. Hartley leads the way, and he's got an almost 2-second gap. Great start for him. Silver Fox in 2nd. There's Swargy in 3rd. He's got a bit of a gap to Ruddo, Bruce and Snav. There's a trio of cars here with Snav, Matty, Rudd and JPH. Snav having to defend into turn 1. Matty Rudd went flying off the circuit. That's surely going to be indicative of a penalty. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. JPH still trying to clear his. And yeah, sure enough, Matty Rudd has that penalty. Might be able to clear that though, coming into turn 3. Great start so far. 12.5 minutes left to go. On the brakes. Well, he didn't clear as much of the penalty as he thought he would, although he got rid of it all in that final corner. Not sure part of the corner, not sure how that's happened, but Matty Rudd then in 7th place. Ruddo, oh, that's a bit of an odd one there. Seems to go very slow. Not sure if Ruddo was letting him back through or not. But D. Hartley leads the way. Silver Fox in 2nd there. He's only got a 2nd now to Swargy. Swargy just closing that gap at the moment. Bruce Lee in 4th. There's Ruddo 5th. Snav 6th. Matty Rudd and JPH. There's Rin in 9th, getting a bit sideways coming out of turn 6 almost. Little snap of oversteer. And there's Tim. 11 seconds back, so he's gone off somewhere else. And he enjoys the gravel trap at turn 6 again. D. Hartley's lost a bit of time actually. He was over a 2nd clear. It's now less than a 2nd. So Silver Fox in slipstream territory. D. Hartley ran so wide coming out of turn 10. It's actually compromised him. And he's got a penalty as well to boot. And Silver Fox 40 will fancy his chances. Swargy will too. But all of the other drivers are now coming back towards Swargy. Bruce less than a 2nd behind. Ruddo there in 5th. Snav in 6th place, trying to hold off Matty Rudd and JPH. Going well so far for the drivers. All taking different gears coming out of the corners. Let's see what Hartley does on the brakes now. Down into what will potentially be 2nd gear. He's gone deep at turn 3. And that is what Silver Fox 40 will love to see. He saw it earlier in the race in the Fugus where D. Hartley went off at turn 4. It's happened now at turn 3. Gap just over half a 2nd. Swargy in 3rd. Bruce Lee's absolutely rapid at the moment. New fastest lap time of 48.888. He's all over the back of Swargy, the pace setter in the minis currently, the blue and black car. There's Ruddo in 5th position. Matty Rudd's got past Snav and JPH. There's another little group in fighting for 6th position. But this is now a quintuplet pack. Oh, Swargy running it to the outer limits. But it's paid off for him. He's got a good run up the inside of Silver Fox 40, but he's got a penalty. Now, will Swargy have to give that back? He may need to. As per the rules, he wasn't past Silver Fox 40 when all that gone on, and Ruddo's now up the inside as well. Ruddo's got himself into 3rd. Bruce Lee's trying to find a way back through. Silver Fox there in 5th place, trying to find something out of all of this. At turn 1, he's made a little bit of contact with Ruddo. Fortunately, hasn't made much of a difference. But great fighting out on circuit at the moment. Matty Rudd's now caught up with the rest of the group. There's Snav and JPH as well. Good battling out on circuit at the moment. Rin there in 9th place. Putting in a good shift, Rin, to be honest with you, has to be said, even though he's on his own. But Snav and Matty Rudd are still side by side as they come towards turn number 4.